introduce our next presenter, who will introduce the person she's going to have the conversation with. So first, I would like to say that I'm so old that I need to hold it far away from me as well too. So my last introduction is a very special one. Oh, and that's because it's Allison Wright, Al Wright, who, Allison, where is Allison? Al? Oh, there, okay, yeah, there you are. Who came all the way from Portland, Oregon to be with us today and has served as the mentorship program manager for StartOut for about 2 years now. And said that her very first day at StartOut was at our gala dinner 2 years ago in New York City. And she didn't know anyone and she was in a new position. And it's kind of exciting because today is similar for Allison as well, too. She does know a lot of folks, and you're going to get to meet her soon. If you don't know about our mentorship program, we have about 500 incredible queer and allied mentors from across the spectrum and across industries who provide direct support to individual mentees that we'll match you with. So ask Allison about that at the after party, and she'll be happy to fill you in. But the reason I say today is similar to 2 years ago when Allison started her new role at StartOut is that next week she's going to start another new role at StartOut. She will be our first ever director of education. And this is great for Allison, but it's greater for all of you and for StartOut because we know how important education across the spectrum is for people getting started in their business. And Allison has some incredible ideas. And like you, when you go and pitch your company, she came and she pitched, this is what our education program should look like and what we need to do. And it made perfect sense. And she's got a great track record of success. And so we're so thrilled to have Allison in this new incredible role. So if you want to know more about our mentorship program or the upcoming education programs, feel free to email Allison or just email us at info@startout.org. But without further ado, I would like to bring Allison to the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for that wonderful intro. I am really excited for our final conversation of the day. We've been here all afternoon, and I am thrilled to introduce our final session, which is about authentic entrepreneurship and the power of being uniquely you, which is a subject that so many of our people on stage today touched on. It's a topic that was connected in so many of the conversations I've had with all of you out in the lobby. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Charlotte Hamilton. Charlotte is the CEO and the co-founder of N5 Solar, which is building the most durable solar modules, in the world based on novel designs and patented technology. She brings more than 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship, including being a 5-time founder in hard tech and the material sciences. She is the co-inventor of multiple pieces of intellectual property. She has raised and closed over $33 million to date. Her newest startup, N5 Solar, was selected as a nominee for the Startup Challenge at the World Materials Forum in Paris, where she'll be going in July. She's also a member of StartOut's board of directors, and she is a trans woman who has lived openly in the business world since 2021. Everybody give it a round of applause for Charlotte. We'll be playing.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us and with me today. Before we get into it, I would love to invite you to tell us your story.
Oh, okay. They told us this was authenticity and entrepreneurship, and Allison asked me if I would like the questions in advance. And I said, well, it's a conversation about authenticity, so don't tell me what you're gonna ask me. So tell my story. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, and I left Anchorage, first-gen college student at Cornell University. So I was lucky to go to Cornell. Got some claps there. Thank you. Go Big Red. And I left, graduated from Cornell with a degree in environmental science, and then went to Seattle where I worked in nonprofit and worked for Microsoft briefly as a technical writer on IE5 auto search. That's my technical cred there. But then I went back to business school, also at Cornell, and there I really decided to be an entrepreneur. So I decided that what I wanted to do was try to find really awesome tech and move it forward in the world. So I've been very lucky to be able to do that now for coming on like 20 years. I've been an entrepreneur. So I graduated from my MBA program in 2004. Started one startup while I was there, a student project that we still teach a class about. Then I helped start a company called Novomer, which was a catalytic chemistry company. We use carbon dioxide to make polymers, plastics. And really interesting company. And that's where I really got my foot in the door of like coming to San Francisco and raising venture capital and all of that. So raised $6.5 million there. Ended up saying no to some investors and yes to many others. And really interesting story. Left that company in 2009. It was sold in 2021 for $152 million. Amazingly, I still owned some of it at that point, which is pretty nice. And then I started a biotech company called Adenios. Sorry, I'm monologuing, but you asked me to just tell you my whole story. I started a biotech company to improve drug delivery to the brain to help cure HIV and brain cancer. The technology worked for that company. The company did not. So that's a really interesting story. I started a battery company called Konomics, which I led for 10 years. I just stepped down when I moved from Ithaca to Syracuse a year and a half ago. So basically all the way through my 40s, I ran a battery company, and hopefully all the way through my 50s here, I'll be running a solar company. So I started a solar company called N5 Solar. We make incredibly durable solar panels. So our solar panels last 50 years instead of just 20 years, and they cost about the same as other solar panels. So we're raising a seed round, and that's actually why I'm in San Francisco. And I joined the StartOut board, and I asked the crew, hey, I'm in San Francisco. Can I come to the equity forum? And they said, yes, I can come. And also, would you please talk? So here I am.
Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Yeah, no problem.
In so many of our conversations together, one of the things that has been really palpable to me is that you are authentically you. What does authenticity mean to you in business and in life? And is there any kind of separation for you?
Oh, yeah. Authenticity is obviously it's being yourself in the world. And there is very much a difference between being myself personally and being myself professionally. All of you right now, and if there are people still watching online, you're all viewing like the CEO branded Charlotte. So I went to dinner yesterday with some StartOut folks, and I was wearing like a funky zipper jacket that I got in Japan, and my hair was pulled back, and I had didn't have stage makeup on, you know, and that is much more my natural self. But in running a business, in raising money, in moving a company forward, I go through very specific things about like my own personal branding, how I move forward, how I present myself. And yeah, I don't wear this dress to like Applebee's with my boyfriend. You know, this is my I'm talking to folks about being a CEO. This is my CEO boardroom ready dress. And this is, you know, I'm here as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, and that's a different kind of authenticity than moving in the world with my grandparents or whatever.
Thank you. What are the core values that for you drive you being the authentic you? I know you have a personal brand.
Yeah, so personal brand and core values are very different things. So a personal brand is really like, I encourage people that are moving in their careers to kind of think through what their personal brand is, and to think through like, what are 5 words that are going to define you, that you're going to live by? And anticipating you're going to ask me what they are, I'll just tell you mine. And these are while I stall for time and think about what my core values are for the second part of the question. My brand is I'm fearless. And that doesn't mean I'm not afraid. I'm incredibly afraid all the time. I'm like nervous right now. I was nervous for an hour before this. I'm fearful all the time, but I don't stop moving forward. So yeah, I'm fearless in a business setting. I will talk to anyone. I will turn down money from billionaires. I will do what's right for my company, and I will negotiate tough as nails with anyone in the world. I am absolutely fearless, and that's part of my professional brand. I'm also very trustworthy. That's kind of my second word, is like I'm a truth teller in media. I'm a truth teller to investors, saying, here's this great, amazing thing that I'm doing, and here's all the ways that it could fail. You know, I balance out that optimism with being very, very direct about saying the hard things. And then, again, this is personal branding, so this is like power optimistic Charlotte you're hearing here, but like I come into a room and I'm whip smart. That's one of my personal brand points, is like I am aware of all my details in a way that everybody knows it. I come into a room, I know my cap table, I've built the spreadsheets, I've built the PowerPoint, I know what the details are down to the nth degree, and I've worked with some of the very smartest people in the world, and I will name drop them to make sure everybody knows that I'm whip smart as part of my personal brand. I'm at 3. I'm still stalling for time on my personal values. My fourth one is I'm a boss. I walk into a room, I am the CEO. I walk into a boardroom with a bunch of investors. I sit at the head of the table. Everybody in that room is there to move the company forward, and I am leading that room. So I am a boss confidently. I own that, and I think I have to in business. And the last one, encouraged by a marketing friend of mine, is I'm a glamazon. I do not shy from the fact that I'm 6'1". I don't shy from the fact that normally I have like 1-inch acrylic nails. My nails are shot, so I couldn't have my acrylics on right now. But yeah, I own my look because I'm not going to turn down my look to appeal to somebody else's unconscious bias. Like I'm just not going to do that. I think that undermines all the other aspects of my brand in business. But that's about being authentically a boss, CEO, entrepreneur. In terms of values, can you rephrase the question and give me 10 more seconds?
I mean, I think you nailed the question.
No,
about
that I was
personal brand.
like, look, that was personal brand. Thank you. But yeah, my values, it's like, yeah, I wake up every day and I pray to increase the love in the world and increase the connection between people in the world. That's what I want to do on a given day. And I try to make my own decisions on that same kind of rubric. Is this increasing the connection between people to come here and talk today? Yes, it's doing that. So also to move a company forward that increases renewable energy and increases values, and I'm building a company that stands by those values. But that's a more intensely personal question, but I'm happy to like explore it further. So
Beautiful. I mean, one of the things it makes me think of when we first met is you described yourself as counterphobic, that
Yeah.
you move towards the things in life and business that scare you. What is it? And I know this is obviously also part of your personal brand, being
Mhm.
fearless. What is it in you that propels you, that drives you to move towards that which scares you?
Yeah, 51 years of doing that in the world. I mean, force of habit, I think. Like, counterphobic is a word I learned from my therapist of 10 years. It's like, it's basically, if I'm afraid of something, if I realize I'm afraid of something, whether that's a business thing, a negotiation, or frankly transitioning, if I'm afraid of something, I will partly move towards that thing because I am afraid of it. And I need to recognize that as a pattern. I'm trying not to be negative about myself. There are other ways to describe a slightly destructive pattern, but I think it really is just kind of habit. And then it's also just practice because I'm good at it. Like I get rewarded for doing it. Like I'm building companies and I'm raising money and I'm pitching amazing things in France or Monaco or wherever it is that I'm doing these things. And it takes a muscle memory. And I guess I've just developed that muscle memory of like, yeah, I'm afraid of this thing, but I was also afraid to, you know, walk as my authentic self 12 years ago by Wrigley Field in Boston late one night. You know, like I was scared out of my freaking mind to pump gas like 8 years ago, you know, just moving as myself. But, you know, the car needed gas and you know, it's just part of my life is that I move towards things that I'm afraid of, for better or worse.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think one of the things that even you just mentioned with pitching, and we've talked so much about pitching today, for you, how do you prepare for a pitch and being in your authenticity, prepare for a pitch?
Yeah, it's about knowing the details. It's about living up to my own like brand promise to, if I'm going back to that language, but yeah, I know everything about my business. And but I lean into a situation, you know, ultimately people are investing in teams. They're investing in the person. And they might not like your business. They might want you to have more software or more hardware or more scalability or more IPO or whatever it is that they happen to be looking for in that day within the VC du jour. It doesn't mean that you should change your strategy to meet those, which is a separate subject, but you've got to be able to move on the fly to say, okay, you want to see a more scalable thing, here's the ways that this can be more scalable. Or you want to see something that's more about jobs, here's the way that this can be more about jobs. So you have to know your details and be quick on your feet, but I think it's about leaning in, to kind of reuse a term that's used a lot. But I just, well, here I am doing this thing again. I'm like pitching to somebody about some business I just created months ago and pulled out of thin air. And it's just, well, I've been doing that for my whole life, so I might as well just do it again. I guess, I don't know. It's just habit. It's kind of just what I do for a living now.
I love that. You have raised funds on both sides of the gender spectrum. What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so I started socially transitioning 12-ish years ago. But I didn't come out fully for business as a woman and change my name until 2021. So I raised the majority of the money that Allison quoted while I was, what I say, cosplaying as a guy. I was like really good at it. I was super passing as a guy. Like people totally believed that I was a dude, if you can like believe that. It's all about the handshake. You know, it's like you gotta have the handshake, look them in the eye kind of thing. But anyway, I came out of central casting as an entrepreneur dude, right? I mean, I'm tall, I wore a fitted suit with no tie because everybody worked for me. And I had 2 Ivy League degrees, and I was there telling them, here's all the exciting things that we can do. And I looked like the person that got 80% of the money. So I looked like the person that they had invested in before and had returned all of the IPOs on the plaques that are on the wall of the 23rd floor of whatever the VC's office is, right? So because I had all those advantages, I got through the benefit of the doubt on some very technically heavy things. So I'm talking about making new plastics. That's a technically difficult thing to do. And I got past that benefit of the doubt, but I was so clueless about it. Like I really didn't know that I had all of these benefits. Like I'm on a playing field that's like level like this, and I'm way over here, and I didn't even know it. So I didn't know. And yeah, I was really quite successful raising a lot of money. Then I socially started transitioning, and then I came out for work fully. And then I was awkward, newly transitioning transgender person. You know, my voice wasn't, this is all voice training, by the way. Folks that move in my direction have to do that, our surgery. So early in my transition, I didn't have the voice, I didn't have the look, I didn't know, there's a lot of medical things and hormones and all of that. So like I was early transition and I still had to raise money. And then I'm on the other side. Now I'm over here on that playing field. And boy, did I learn how little I knew about sexism. Like I did not know what I didn't know until you think you do, but until you're like walking in those shoes and pitching in those rooms and doing it the same way you've been doing it for 18 years and getting told no, or doing it the same way you've done it for 18 years and getting asked questions that you've never been asked before about like the financial details because people have an unconscious bias about women being very likable, but not really being very good at math. And so I developed reflexes about how to deal with that. I also moved through my own transition and it's been a very active 3 years. And like, I move as a binary trans person, which we can certainly talk about. And that in itself is a huge privilege that I have that others in the community do not have. And that is just part of how I move, but I'm able to successfully raise funds, but I would say I'm working like 300% harder than I was before.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You have shared with me in conversation that you see yourself as a catalyst and you're a chemist. So I love
Yeah.
that word literally and metaphorically for you.
Sure.
Tell us what that means for you as an entrepreneur in the industries that you're in.
Yeah. So I'm a chemist by accident. I didn't get the best grades in college chemistry, but I ended up running chemical companies for about 20 years. So along the way, I've worked with some truly gifted chemists and some of the very smartest chemists in the world. So one key principle of chemistry is catalysis. It's that, okay, these two things over here can combine and move to a lower energy state over here. But along the way, they've got to get over this hill called the activation energy. So they've got to get over this hump. What a catalyst does is it doesn't change the end state. The catalyst just lowers that activation energy. It makes it easier for something to happen that is already going to happen. So that's my job. That's what I do as an entrepreneur. I find really a cool technology that I think a startup will be the right vehicle to move that forward. And that's a longer conversation because sometimes it's not a startup, but I catalyze really cool technology happening in the world sooner using business. And I've been lucky to do it for a couple of decades now. And I haven't necessarily made the most money in the world. I mean, I think a lot of people would say, like, for expected value, I should have gone into investment banking. Not entrepreneurship, but I have moved real technologies forward that make a difference in the world, and I'm incredibly proud of that. And I do that by catalyzing and lowering the activation energy for something to happen that was going to happen anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think about the different industries that you've been in, like the product which improved drug delivery to the brain, which served people with HIV. I think about the lithium batteries, which, by the way, I had to Google polymer like 3 times to understand fully what you were doing with that company. But what is it? It seems like you have this ability to go through many different industries with your entrepreneurship. How do you pick the next, what draws you to the next thing? So
I've been incredibly lucky. I really have been in the right place multiple times, but I really do think you make your own luck, obviously. Earlier on, there was more of a process, but there was also just a ton of just like, I met the right person who handed me something and said, oh, we've got this new company that makes polymers, plastics out of carbon dioxide. And I saw that grant proposal. I saw that they needed an employee to move that forward. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about that. But the others, I took time to go and find. And the company to improve drug delivery to the brain. I searched through technology at Cornell University, and I can have a much longer conversation about like tech transfer, and I've licensed a lot of stuff along the way. Battery company I also went and found. Then that technology ended up not being as good as we thought it was. We had to do a pivot, which is a really interesting story. We found another technology and moved it forward. In5 Solar, the company I'm running now, is the first one that found me. So some couple of Irish guys had licensed the technology to make carbon foam to that you can use to put on the back of solar panels, and you make these solar panels last twice as long, and they're not very expensive to make. And they needed an entrepreneur. So they saw me speak in one of the things that I sent you, and they ran me down. So I've reached a point in my career where people find me to help move things forward, which is a really lucky place to be.
That's awesome. I'd like to return to the topic of your transition and living as a binary transgender woman.
Sure.
You have an 80-20 rule on PR. Tell us about that and why do you have it?
Sure. So yeah, they're two separate subjects. The 80-20 rule is that I in working in my brand and is identifying and moving forward, I want to be known in the press as a really great entrepreneur. I want to be known as a material scientist or as somebody who's moving cool technology forward. And so that's where 80% of my external press should be focused on. Yes, I'm transgender. I came out as such in 2021 while I was running a company. I didn't really have a choice but to be publicly out because of reasons. And, but I actively turned down press that is like, the most egregious example is like, okay, Charlotte, what do you think about what some politician has done? It's like, I have no comment on that. Like I've had media ask me that, and I have no comment on that because I have no expertise. I happen to be transgender. I'm also a brunette. Like that doesn't mean that I have a political opinion that is valid. Sorry, no offense to the brunettes in the room. But then, so I do that on purpose because as an out transgender person who's leading a company, I have lots of opportunities to have press about, oh, transgender person does this. And I don't really want a lot of that press. I mean, I'm not afraid of it, and I've been in kind of a lot of press around that, but I'm pretty carefully controlled about that. I want 80% of my press to be about, hey, this woman's doing this really cool thing in solar, or I'm in the Wall Street Journal talking about batteries, or I'm talking about the future of EVs in clean technica or something like that. Like that's what I want most of my press to be about, because that's who I am. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hard tech nerd. Like, yes, I'm transgender too. And I'm part of social change that everybody else in the room is part of. And I'm proud of that. I don't hide from it. Here I am talking on stage about it, but it's not what I lead with. Just recently went to Austria working with some companies on material science things. I was in Austria for 5 days, and the fact that I was transgender didn't come up. Like, why would it? We were talking about material testing and product scale up. Like, it's not relevant that my gender history is such. But yeah, that really has nothing to do with that I'm binary versus non-binary. But I'm happy to talk about that if you'd like.
Please go for it.
Yeah, I'm binary as heck. So like, yeah, I'm she, her. And I'm not non-binary. And there's privilege that comes with that in business settings, and I'm she, her. I don't have to really explain that I'm she, her, you know, I mean, look at my hair, you know, it's like I'm she, her, and people assume that I am. So I don't have to go through the extra step of explaining that I'm they, them, or that I'm other pronouns entirely. So that's just I'm doing entrepreneurship and business on a harder difficulty level, but all I'm pointing out is that there's a harder difficulty level still, and I didn't draw that card. You know, I was assigned male at birth, and I'm a chick, so I'm she, her, and it's a little bit easier. And it's similar to like saying I couldn't understand the sexism that I had to face until I moved this way. I also can't understand the challenges of being non-binary in a business setting because I'm not non-binary in a business setting. So I can learn and I'm all ears, but I can't really know the way that somebody who is moving that way does know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think with our last few minutes, I would love to take you into a lightning round. Are you game?
Yeah, sure. Do I have to dance?
No, I will not ask
Okay.
what your favorite dance move is. Not at all. This will be a different kind of lightning round.
Sure thing.
Okay, first off, favorite part of entrepreneurship?
Working with amazing people. I get to work on amazing ideas, and I've really worked with some just fantastic people all the way along the way. I count myself really lucky to be an entrepreneur.
Favorite person you've ever worked with?
Oh my gosh. I love working with my kids, honestly. Like I have 3 kids, and my favorite person to work with is when I draft my middle girl, who is the entrepreneur of the family. My other 2 are fabulous liberal artists. So I have a liberal artist on either side of an entrepreneur, but when she's in the office with me, I am so effective because she's just like, everybody's going to be working for this kid someday. And she just catalyzes my own productivity. So my favorite person to work with, frankly, is my middle daughter, Dorothy.
I love it. So on the flip side, for the best part of entrepreneurship, what is the hardest part of entrepreneurship?
Maintaining your energy. And you know, it's a universe that's stacked against you. It's a universe that takes advantage of the entrepreneurial energy that people bring to the table. And it's a universe that's built on the energy of entrepreneurs deciding to move something forward. Like, I woke up this morning, I had an idea, or I've been working on this idea for 6 years, and I'm going to move it forward, or it's not going to move forward. Doing that every single day, not getting paid for it, and making other people vast fortunes is difficult. So it's like having the energy to continue to like will something into existence every frickin' day is difficult.
I'd love to follow up and ask, what's one thing you do to build your energy or to rebuild it when you feel depleted?
Surround myself with love, which means loving myself and taking care of myself, getting enough sleep, like all the basic things, like distracting myself when I feel horrible. You know, I am a transgender woman, and I fight dysphoria and all different kinds of things. And like, yeah, okay, I can wallow in the fact that, okay, maybe I don't feel good enough to look in a mirror today, but I can drink a lot of water and take a walk and go to yoga class. You know, it's like taking care of myself and loving myself is as important as surrounding myself with people that do the same.
Love that. Favorite quote?
Well, I'm going to go to the one we talked about, which is the Calvin Coolidge quote, which was shared to me by Martine Rothblatt, who's a absolute leader in entrepreneurship and also a transgender woman. She told me persistence is omnipotent, and that we all had superpowers, that people in this community who, just like Brian said, people in this community that have overcome what we've overcome, whether it's me pumping gas or walking by Fenway Park, you know, I've overcome things. And I had to be persistent to be here with this voice and tone and brightness and pitch, right? I had to be persistent and work for years to just be able to be myself in the world. And that's a superpower. Being persistent, I see people here with like early stage on their badge, you know, being persistent and saying, I'm going to move this thing forward even though nobody else is. Like being persistent and doing it. Like I'm raising a seed round now. It's really difficult. It's my third seed round that I've raised. I haven't got investors beyond a lead investor yet, but I'm still going to continue to move that forward. I'm going to be persistent about it. I made a decision. I'm going to move this company forward, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm also really, really stubborn, and I really don't like being told I can't do something. So I think like the statistics, I want to ignore those statistics. I know what they are. I live and breathe them all the time. I know what they are, but I want to ignore them. I want to raise more money than anybody's ever raised for a solar company. I don't want to worry about the fact that I don't have enough money to move this company forward because I'm facing certain barriers. I'm going to build the biggest solar company in the world with a new product, and people are going to be lucky to work with me and help invest in my company to move that forward. I'm going to be turning money away from this company because it's a great idea and I'm persistent and I'm moving something forward. I'm not going to be planning for not having enough money because I happen to be transgender. I think that's a recipe for failure.
That's just,
Oh my
I've got a round
God.
of applause. That's just so,
Thank you.
so awesome.
I
So awesome.
Thank you. I just recently joined the StartOut board, and Brian and I had dinner yesterday, and I was like, okay, you want to really listen to some opinions, and I kind of started using the table as a whiteboard and mapping these things out, and I said to him, I'm like, I'm an acquired taste. Like, I am a stubborn, opinionated individual, and you know, I'm excited to be here at this nexus of history. Like we're all driving social change, which nobody can take away from us. Like no one can take this advancement away from us. This equity summit in 10 years is going to be 5 times as big or bigger, right? No one can take this away from us because we're moving it forward and we're creating our own value based on our capabilities. And all of this didn't, like these resources, like they didn't exist for the newly out trans woman in 2004. Not me, I was busy being in the closet in 2004 and raising money as a dude. But like all of these resources that are here didn't exist 20 years ago, but they do exist now. And just think about what they're going to be 20 years from now. Think about it when my kid Dorothy is, you know, she takes over my company and I work for her, but like she's going to be helping other people with great ideas move forward. And I think the ecosystem will change and will get better and better and better each year. So I'm really happy to be a part of it.
So much, Charlotte. I know we're at time.
Sure.
I
I
have-
take a lot of drinks because of voice training, by the way, if there are any other folks that are training voice in the room. That's why I take so many drinks.
Hydrate away. I have one more question for you. It's Pride Month. We're in San
Sure.
Francisco.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
are you most proud of today?
Oh gosh. So obviously as a parent, it's my kids, you know, it's that next generation. Like I've managed to produce 3 human beings in the world that have great values. And that's why I can say the things as confidently as I just said them, that the next generation is frankly going to save us all. You know, I've produced a non-binary kid, a cis girl, and an as yet undeclared person. So like, you know, they know who they are, and I'll just leave it at that. But you know, I've created these people that have these values that like hear their mother talking and pushing around lawyers on the phone, and then like, yeah, I'm incredibly proud of my entrepreneur kid, but I'm just as proud of the 2 liberal artists as well. And you know, they all grew up like negotiating for the Afikoman at Passover, and like they know how to do business. These kids know how to do business. They are not going to be taken advantage of by a car dealer, and they have real values. They have real values. They all know how to change a tire. I'm very proud of that.
Charlotte Hamilton, everyone. Give a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.